Today we're looking at how Richard Dawkins tries to explain the I through evolution.
If there was something that I was genuinely puzzled about, then my response would not be, oh, it must be supernatural. My response would be, then in that case we must roll our sleeves up and go to work to try to understand it.
I agree with that. Now, we obviously have different ways we look at the universe, but if we don't know how something happened, I totally agree we should roll up our sleeves, dig into the science, and figure out how. Now, I believe the science shows a creator, and he says, no, I don't believe the science shows a creator.
Lump of gubbins, transparent, is better than nothing, and then the lens simply improves its shape gradually. It's got to be gradually.
Gots to be gradually. They so much believe in this thing called time. Their pacifier called millions of years, and if that doesn't work, billions of years. See, that's the thing that tries to complicate all this process. People believe in it because they're ignorance. Ignorance is a weakness. If knowledge is power, ignorance is weakness. And when you get this ignorance, you say, well, it sounds like it could possibly work, so I'll go ahead and believe it. The eye is vastly complicated, and they say, well, over time, this new information, they have DNA strands behind them. That DNA, if you noticed, goes through all these meticulous processes to make sure that it copies itself correctly and does not add tons of mutations. Some fall through, but not a lot, and its purpose is to keep it what it is. If there's a car manufacturer and this guy's whole purpose is to make sure that that car is designed like a car, how long will it take that car to become an airplane? It will never become an airplane because its whole purpose is to make it look like a car. This DNA has that same problem. It's trying to make it look like a car, and it will reject it if it doesn't look like a car, or whatever animal it's trying to become. Now, if you notice, everything he's saying isn't science. They've never seen this. This is all imagination. Richard Dawkins has left reality, and he's going into imagination. Keep watching, keep that in mind.
Trilobites have compound eyes, which is a very different principle and very interesting principle. It doesn't focus quite as sharp an image as our eyes do, but it is a very beautiful thing. And trilobites do go back hundreds of millions of years, 500 billion years, 500 million years. It must have taken some time before trilobites came on the scene, but even trilobites are relatively recent compared to the age of the Earth, which is 4.5 billion years old.
Once again, where's the science? See, he tries to avoid this trilobite thing because trilobites have very complicated eyes, and supposedly they were one of the first creatures to have eyes. And it's boom, complicated eyes. All of these theoretical things of, complex eyes versus not complex eyes, trilobites were right there from the beginning with eyes. Just as the other guy said, it was sort of like it has to work from that go moment.
In mollusks, for example, octopuses, which have rather good eyes, rather like ours, with a
I was hoping he would bring this up. I'm gonna let him talk a little bit more, and I'm gonna whack him with the biggest sledgehammer you can imagine.
Being that the light-sensitive cells point towards the light, and the wires connecting it to the brain lead backwards to the brain, which is the sensible way to do it. Now, the vertebrate eye is back to front, so that the wires that connect the light-sensitive cells to the brain are running along the front of the retina. That means that the light has to penetrate this forest of wires, nerves, before it hits the light-sensitive cells which are facing backwards. Now, it's very easy to see why this happened. It happened for historical reasons, and there's no doubt about that. Now, it is of course true that humans... It happened for historical reasons, and there's no doubt about that. Now, it is of course true that humans, for example, and I mentioned hawks before, see much better than octopuses. So in spite of the fact that our eye has this design flaw, we have better eyes because natural selection comes along afterwards and cleans up after the original mess that was made by this fundamental design flaw.
Another fairy tale, okay? But here's the main point. And I love he brings up the octopus example because it's been proven wrong so many times. So if I could draw a little picture for you, imagine like a bunch of photoreceptors right here. In an octopus, all the wires that go to those photoreceptors are behind it, and the light comes in from in front. In a human, the photoreceptors are like here, and the wires are like right here. So the light has to go through the wires, hit the photoreceptors, right? There's a reason for that. And listen closely. Octopuses live in the water. Humans live in the air. Have you ever realized how dark it gets in the ocean? See, in the ocean, the light comes through, it hits the water, it gets scattered by the water, and you get really dark. And then it goes through the water, hits your eye, okay? Here in the overworld, if you try to stare at the sun, you get burned out, you go blind. We live in a way less dense atmosphere than the octopus does, and therefore, when the light goes and hits the eye, we need that extra layer of protection. Try to swap eyes with an octopus. You would go blind in a matter of days, probably hours even, because everything would just be way too bright for you. The reason why our eyes are the way they are is because the light comes in, hits those blood nerves and vessels, and it dims the light down to something that we can manage without going blind. Our eyes are very delicate machines, and if our eyes were shaped the other way around, we would go blind instantly. Octopuses were designed for the water. Humans are designed for land. And they want to say, this is proof of a bad design, and then evolution came up with it anyways. That's their fairy tale. The truth is, it was designed for its application. And even if it was proof of a bad design, it's still proof of a design. It can't happen by chance. Roll dice 1,000,000 times by accident and see if it ever forms a sculpture of an eye. It's not going to happen. So yes, Richard Dawkins has proven himself, in this case, to be a moron. And if he did any research in the eye category, you would realize how stupid what he is saying is.
So each step of the way that I told you about might have been hypothetical, but you can find an animal somewhere around the animal kingdom, a living animal, which actually does it. So I don't understand why you don't find that convincing.
Well, he admits they're hypothetical, and we've never seen one turn into another. That's the evidence. We need to literally see one turn into the other. And you'll say, well, it doesn't work like that. Well, then it's not science. If it doesn't work like that, it's not science, because science is testable, provable research. It is unbelievable how much someone will believe to stay in their disbelief. I quoted that from Matt Powell because he's said that over and over, and I think it's a brilliant phrase. And if you want to check him out, I believe you can just go to Matt Powell Official and find him. But he debunks a lot of the evolution theories, these stories that they make up that they have no actual proof of. In this case, they're saying, well, you can see the cup eye, you can see the pinhole eye, and these different stages. Well, who says that's the way it's going? You could take those individual cards, shuffle them in any order, and say, this is the new order of how it's going. It's all a story based off of what they see. It's an idea. It's a guess. There's no evidence for it. To be science, you have to actually observe it. There is no observation of these things.